Welcome to Geigenomics. Last week, Jeff Deist had a impressive speech on markets versus mobs, as well as Michael Malice joined Tom Woods on his show, and they had an interesting conversation that I highly recommend to everyone listening to this podcast. And where I want to begin today is a point that Jeff Deist made that, Mises actually thought that if we could take the philosophy of liberalism into one word, it would be property. And where we are today is a degradation of property and property rights. And the point that I took away from Michael Malice's perspective when he joined Tom Woods was he was saying that, this is a quote from Mencken, but it's the average person doesn't want to be free. They simply want to be safe. And where we're at today is a once relatively great country is deteriorating. And as Mises put it, interventionism, which is the government intervening in the economy, leads step by step to socialism. And, the Republican Party is not a party of principle. There is no principle to go back to. The Republican Party is responsible for the most government growth in the history of the United States, more than the Democrats. So they don't advocate for small government. They never have. They've always been increasing government. And, the history of the United States, referring to conceived in liberty, has always been in this progressive era. We've always been in progressivism. So we're leading step by step towards socialism. And regardless of who wins this next presidential election, whether it's Trump or whether it's Biden, we're getting closer and closer to a socialist presidency and a socialist regime. And one of the largest active movements of our time is operated under trained Marxists. Now, where this leaves us today, as far as the people who are purveyors of liberal ideas and champions of property in the ideological sense, I don't know where the contemporary battle should be fought on what grounds, in which realm, ideologically speaking. But the point that was really fascinating to me that Michael Malice made on Tom Woods' show was he said that people co-evolved with dogs, and what we have, sorry, I believe that's a plane flying overhead, maybe a helicopter. What we have today is a society where it is virtuous to respect the person at the head of the table or in the front of the classroom, even if they are just a mediocre person, and they are mediocre at best. And this suffering is virtuous because it has to lead to some prosperity in the future. And this isn't necessarily true. People are so quick to judge because if they are approved by the teacher or the government, then they just get their admiration. And the analogy is very much like this is what Michael Malice made: a dog barking at the front of a house looking for the owner's approval. And I was walking with my girlfriend to get ice cream, and I didn't have a mask on. And this lady walked by and she goes, "Wear your mask," and sneered at me. And this, to me, irrelevant of whether or not I should be wearing a mask, the sneering is not a part of a civilized society. The way I think we can go about our lives is in a very civilized manner. And this is unfortunate, but the sneering is what you get in very tyrannical societies. And this is this mob mentality that it's okay to bash people in these manners. And I disagree. I think that this is a very dangerous road that we will go down if we give in to the ideas of the cathedral, which is the corporate press and the mainstream media. If you just watch a clip with no audio of any mainstream media, it's a figurehead telling you what to do, what to think. And until people are able to think for themselves and think clearly with some ideology and principle-based organization, such as property and the respecting of persons and their property, then I don't think we can reach the understanding of civilization. I think until people can understand that true liberalism relies in property and subjective values, and as long as we understand the concept of aggression and violence, then we have the best chance for returning to liberty. And that's why this two-party system is going to lead to catastrophic failure, because it has to, because no one's going to save anybody else. We're going down this road of Democrats versus Republicans, but both parties are inherently flawed. And we're leading step by step to a totalitarian regime. The government size is increasing. There's mass spending. There's mass unemployment. Where's the end? I don't know. I think the only optimistic return to civilization that we have is the understanding of liberal ideologies, and in the classical sense, in the liberty sense. It's frustrating, but maybe it's best to remain optimistic even in the faces of uncertainty. However, I think if people who are still listening to this podcast, if we all continue to learn economics and understand that economics is a knowledge of principle in everybody's life, then we have the best chance of creating a future on sound money and property and persons and individuals instead of forced collectivism. Thank you.